Good morning. We are live on Broncos for Breakfast on YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter, but we want to be live on Facebook as well. So we'll bring in our various Facebook groups and make sure we've got everybody in here to talk this on a Black Monday, day after the season is over. And welcome in, everybody. This is Broncos for Breakfast. I'm your host, Scott Kennedy. I will be going solo today on Black Monday. It might be a down day for the Denver Broncos, but it's not quite a Black Monday. I think you could pretty much have an idea of what your coach is going to look like next year. But the season did end on a bit of a disappointing note, and it was really a season of highs and lows for this team. Some really high highs and some incredibly low lows. What a roller coaster this team was, along with the drama to go along with it. I think it might feel a little better to just get to some state of normalcy in the offseason where you're starting to think about what can I do to help make this team better through the draft, through free agency, et cetera, et cetera. There will be some more drama if and when Russell Wilson is eventually released. But overall, it'll feel like a more normal offseason. And frankly, it'll be a little bit more fun for us because right now you're sitting there, I believe, the number 12 overall draft pick. And let me see, number 12. Yeah, 12 overall draft pick. And this is the first time since our first year that you've had a pick. That pick was Pat Surtain. It's been a while. So it says, let me see here. The video, not the audio. Scott, no. Jeremy, okay. Looks like we're okay on here as far as not being frozen. I will be solo today. Nick is off this week. A little programming note. I will not be here tomorrow. We will go on Thursday. So Broncos for Breakfast will be Monday, Thursday, not Monday, Tuesday, Thursday. So we're taking tomorrow off. We'll be back on Thursday. Kind of let all of the coaching stuff settle in a little bit and have a little bit more to talk about over the course of the week. A lot of news already today has come in. The Atlanta Falcons have made a move. They fired their coach, I think, at 12:01 Eastern, so it became Black Monday in a hurry. Washington Commanders have moved on from basically everybody. So lots of stuff going on already today. We go live because we like having y'all in here. So we want to say hello to some folks that have come in nice and early. I did start this at 10 a.m., so we were a little late, but I scheduled at 10, so hopefully everybody understood that we were going to be starting a little bit late today. And there were some folks that came in nice and early, like Colin Wood. Again, the game almost feels secondary yesterday. Yes, you didn't want to lose again to the Las Vegas Raiders. I think that's 8 in a row now, and now, 10 out of 11? I don't need to rub it in, I know. But again, it was a glorified exhibition yesterday. Antonio Pierce and the Las Vegas Raiders had more to play for. They were trying to keep their coach. Antonio Pierce was coaching for an audition where Sean Payton's got $18 million or so next year. Regardless, his job is safe. There are some getting up and breaking that streak for the Denver Broncos is more important to fans that have lived through that streak. Most of the Denver Broncos that are on the team haven't lived that streak that goes back that time. It wasn't quite the motivator. And when you're going on the road at the end of the season in a dead rubber game, those kind of things matter. And it showed. So yeah, Colin, I think yesterday's game would qualify as pretty much unwatchable. Going in there with, backup quarterbacks and guys who were nursing injuries, not playing, that it felt like a glorified exhibition, not even as important as a preseason game where you're trying to see who might make the team, where you're trying to evaluate new players. It was a little bit tough. David Yonkin says, I think the game has passed Sean and Vance Joseph by. If we keep all the coaches in place for next year, we'll miss the playoffs again. Those aren't necessarily completely connected. I think you could keep all of the coaches and miss the playoffs again next year based on the personnel, and it doesn't mean that those guys can't coach. There was a night and day difference this year between last year. Like I said, there were some really high highs and some really low lows, but from a personnel standpoint, this team has some holes in it. It was never as bad as 1-5, but they were never as good as 6-1. And with the limitations on this team, and then by the time you get to the end of the season with the players who aren't playing, 500 is about right. So the concern, David, is then coming into next season saying, okay, well, how does it get better? How can this team make a leap from 8-9, 9-8 to the playoffs, considering the cap limitations and stuff that you're going to have? We'll get into that, and we've got an entire offseason to do that. Morning, Scott. QB at 12 or trade up? Until you have a quarterback, you are mid at best. Becomes a really good question, Jeremy. Again, it depended on where you look. And one of the places I like to keep an eye on is NFL mock draft database, because they do a very good job of having consensus. So I'm going to share this screen. Let me drop this over here a little bit. I'm going to share the screen with everybody, I think. Hopefully it's not got too many auto-playing ads, which is going to mess with everybody here. I've got a new monitor, and it's... So let me share this screen. Apologies, this is taking too long. I should have had this ready. I like the mock draft database here. And again, it's got the picks here for Marvin Harrison, Caleb Williams, Drake May, et cetera, et cetera. And it says who is probably going to take these guys. Now, the top picks are Chicago Bears, Washington Commanders, New England Patriots. If Chicago decides to go quarterback, those first three picks are off the table. Jaden Daniels, Caleb Williams, Drake May are gone. Chicago is the only one that's in doubt about needing a quarterback. That's the only one. So if they decide that they want out of that spot, then Justin Fields is then available. Can you use that pick for Justin Fields? Do you want to? That becomes a question. It becomes an option, because the first three quarterbacks are now off the board. The Washington Commanders are going quarterback. New England's going quarterback. If Chicago Bears go quarterback, then Justin Fields becomes the guy that's available. Otherwise, maybe you can get into the top four to take a quarterback, because the Chicago Bears trade back to 2 or 3 and select Marvin Harrison Jr. But if you scroll down on here and look at some of the guys where they have them ranked, let me get rid of this auto-playing video. If I scroll down here and see where they have Michael Penix Jr. rated, they've got him at 21 overall. The highest he's been rated overall across the combination of all of these picks is 20. That could go up today. And the projection on him was number 8 Falcons. And where did I have? See, I thought I had this one yesterday said it's changed since yesterday, because yesterday, you know who it said? It said Denver Broncos at 12. So that becomes an option. I don't know that he will go that high. I just don't know that you can get into. Let me stop this here. Stop screen. Stop sharing. The problem is, Jeremy, I don't know that you will be able to get high enough to even take Michael Penix Jr. So, and why is that? I saw this discussion yesterday, and unfortunately, we kind of operate in a vacuum. Well, we'll just trade up with, let's say, Tennessee at number 7, who wants Will Levis. Or maybe we'll trade up with number 6. Maybe we'll trade with the Chargers at number 5. Cardinals will probably want to stick where they are to get one of those premier guys at number 4. But maybe we'll just trade up into those spots if we think we have to get Michael Penix and trade up. The problem is you better hope that the teams ahead of you and the teams you're competing with decide that Michael Penix isn't worth that, because you're not getting ahead of the Atlanta Falcons if they decide Michael Penix is the guy. They're already sitting at number 8. They've got more draft picks to spend. You're not getting ahead of them. So if you say, okay, well, if we get to 7 and we trade with Tennessee, we can get Michael Penix there. All right, get on the phone with the Tennessee Titans and decide, okay, we want Michael Penix. You know what the Tennessee Titans are going to do? They're going to pick up the phone and they're going to call Terry Fontenot at number 8 and say, hey, listen, this is what the Broncos just offered us. Can you beat it? Yeah, we can beat that. We're sitting with the number 8 pick. We've got three other picks in the top 50. We can beat that. So it becomes really, really hard to get one of those quarterbacks if you think that's your guy. Now, as you move down, you can still get lucky. You can still move. Bo Nix should be available at that spot. Do you think you want Bo Nix in that spot? J.J. McCarthy could be available at 12. Do you want J.J. McCarthy in the spot? The farther you go down the list from quarterback 1, 2, 3, 4, the less chance you have of hitting. Does that mean you shouldn't take a swing? No, it doesn't. I think you probably need to go quarterback in this spot, or at least go down. You have to come out of this draft with a quarterback. Now, where you decide that fits your board, we will see. We will see on that one. We've got some folks coming in with some super chats, and I appreciate the support that you are showing the show this morning on Broncos for Breakfast. while I go with a solo effort today. Mark Schrader comes in. He says, "Good morning, Scott. More crappy weather hitting us today than headed your way." Great. Mark is in Texas, and he's kind of my weatherman here in Florida and in Georgia. Whatever he gets about 2 days, 3 days later hits us. It's been cold and windy and crappy. I always complained about the winters in Georgia. Like, well, the winters aren't so bad. Yes, they are. 38 windy rain is about the worst weather there is. I moved up. I lived in New Jersey for 2 years. I was like, I'd rather have it just snow. It did. January 3rd started snowing, didn't stop snowing for 3 months. I was still okay with that. The problem is then May and June hit and it was 35 degrees and raining. I'm like, oh, I see. I may not like the winters in the South, but your springs suck. So you don't miss it. You just move it. So it's not my favorite time of year in January here. Good time to be inside talking football with y'all. Good to see you, Mark. Thank you for the support. Quentin Caldwell coming in with a super chat. Thank you, QC. Appreciate the support you are showing as well. Thank you so much. And Addison Reichlick coming in with the support with a super sticker as well. So thank you a ton for all of those on these. Let me see here. Monica coming in nice and early. She says, I don't think Sean is a mistake yet. Give him his game pieces and we can judge him fairly. I've said this before and I'll say it again as we finish the season. Sean Payton is a good football coach, really good football coach. He has made a big difference in this team from where were you last year? 5-12. Pick up 3 more wins, move to 8-9, and had a chance to be better than that. And, a couple bounces here or there. There was improvement. There was definite improvement. You could see the improvement from last year, even Vic Fangio previous year to this year. Definite improvement. What concerns me is Sean Payton, the general manager. That's what concerns me. It was funny. There was a report about George Payton's future. Sean Payton will decide on George Payton's future. And that threw some people off. It just is a good reminder that people in the national media and around the United States, and especially, the Twixverse, Twitter X, they don't pay attention to the team, to teams other than their own nearly as much as we do, as you do to your own team. And they were surprised to realize, wait a minute, George Payton answers to Sean Payton? Yes, he does. When Sean Payton came in, he was given pretty much absolute authority. And we said that. Y'all have watched me long enough to know that I said I was very surprised that George Payton was still there, that Sean Payton didn't bring in his own guy. I've gone back and forth since then several times on whether George Payton would be retained, whether he'd be here come August 1st of 2024, and I still don't know. I still don't know where that lands. My gut would say no, that Sean Payton would want to have his own guy in here, and that there's been enough mistakes from George Payton to justify him losing his job anyway, the same way that the general manager in the Carolina Panthers just lost his. That he had 3 fireable mistakes, and then you can start counting up some of the bigger misses with it. Those 3 fireable mistakes last year, Russell Wilson, the trade. When you miss that badly on a trade, it's a fireable mistake. Now, do we say it was probably worth taking at the time? Yeah, there weren't too many people second guessing at the time. So I'm not going to hindsight grade it, but you're judged on results, not intentions. This isn't politics. Second one was the contract. Now, was he doing the bidding of the Walton Penner Group? Maybe. But guess what? They're the owners. They're not accountable. The guys that are held accountable are the ones that have to fall on the sword, and they get paid handsomely for it, so you don't feel too bad for it. But the contract extension. And 3, Nathaniel Hackett. Any one of those 3 was a fireable mistake. Now let's take a look at some of the free agents from, Randy Gregory was a whole lot of money flushed down the drain. For a risky investment. The draft has been hit and miss to a certain extent. Now, this past year, I'm not going to talk about George Payton answering to Sean Payton and then drop the likes of Mike McGlinchey in George Payton's lap. Not going to do it. I just said that Sean Payton's the general manager of this team. So what exactly is George Payton doing? And does he want to keep doing it here? Does he want to keep doing it with the Denver Broncos? Or does he want to have more authority and not answer to the head coach, who frankly, one, they have different goals. A general manager is looking for 10 years. A head coach is looking for next year. And two, it's different skill sets. I've sat in the room with coaches. I've sat in a room with former players and listened to them talk about other players as evaluating and be like, guys, you're out of your mind. And hindsight ends up proving me right that these guys aren't as good at evaluating talent as people who do that for a living. Now, there's always going to be misses, I know, but it's a different skill set. Sean Payton, the general manager, this is a long way of me saying that Sean Payton, the general manager, frightens me. Total control, and it's not just him. I don't care who it is. It's part of the downfall in New England. Too much control from Bill Belichick. The roster has eroded. They went 11-5 with Matt Castle, I think was who it was their quarterback when Tom Brady went down. It wasn't all Tom Brady. It was the system. It was the who you had there. Now, your roster, your personnel, now as time goes on and Belichick gets more power, that roster gets worse and worse and worse. It's not a coincidence, y'all. That's what frightens me, is Sean Payton, the general manager, on that one. Let me scroll down here. We had a lot of conversation before I went on because I built this stream nice and early, so it was good to see you in here getting started. Corey has a great question. Can you estimate trade value some of our players if we assume the max possible cap hit is transferred to the other team? That becomes really hard on that one, Corey, because a lot of the guys that would have had some trade value that you would have moved on from, you probably should have done it before the trade deadline this year. You start taking a look at guys like Cortland Sutton and his 24. Let me look at the 24, because we're talking trade value now, so I can flip the script to 2024. Garrett Bowles has a $16 million base salary. If you were to trade him, you might be able to get a third for him, and $16 million. I don't know that you're going to be able to get $16 million and a third. So if you want to get maximum value for him, you probably have to kick in some money or accept less. Zach Allen's not going anywhere. Mike McGlinchey is basically untradeable because of his. Justin Simmons has a 14.5 base salary. So that's the cap that you would save if you were to move on from him. And again, you might be able to get a third or a fourth rounder. But Scott, he's a Pro Bowler. I know. He's also, 31, 32 years old at safety, which isn't considered a really, truly high-value position. And he's expensive. So maybe. Is it worth that much money if he's playing well? Yeah, he is. Ask the Atlanta Falcons. They just signed Jesse Bates, who made a Pro Bowl. They signed him to that kind of money. Jesse was 25. He's 25 years old. That was a long-term investment. So you might be able to get a third or probably more like a fifth, and you're hoping somebody, if you want somebody to pick up the freight on that one, for sure. Cortland Sutton, a fourth or a fifth or again, and someone's getting third, and they'll be taking $13 million of his. Tim Patrick, $10 million of his base salary. He's going to be gone. Ben Powers is kind of a sneaky candidate to be moved on. We'll see about that one. DJ Jones, I think, I don't think you're trading him. I think he's a move on candidate. I think you are much better off with these guys because then you have to replace them anyway. These are key players. You're not going on a full rebuild next year. You're going after trying to take the step from 8-9 to 10-7 next year and make the playoffs. I think you are much better off. And we've talked about this before, but let's take Garrett Bowles, for example. He has a $20 million cap hit next year. So this one becomes pretty easy. $20 million cap hit with a $16 million base salary. Okay. He's got next year. He's a free agent after next year. Do I want to keep him next year? Probably. Otherwise, I've got to replace him. And I might make that decision after the draft. But he's only 32 years old for a left tackle. That's not bad. I can probably get 2 or 3 more years out of him. So what do I want to do with Garrett Bowles? I want to take that $16 million that he is due next year, and I want to turn it into a signing bonus. I'm going to pay you $16 million in cash. I'm going to sign you to a 4-year extension. So I'm going to take that $16 million and I'm going to spread it across 2024, 25, 26, and 27. Therefore, your $16 million that you're due only counts $4 million next year. Counts $4 million next year. Then I pay you the minimum in your base salary your first year. Call it $1 million to keep it nice and easy. His cap hit went from $20 million to $5 million. So my cap hit on that is only $5 million, and I still have my left tackle in place. Now I've got to pay him more as time goes on, but I'm getting more cap flexibility in 2 seasons. So I can limit Cortland Sutton, Justin Simmons, Garrett Bowles. I can get almost $50 million back from their salaries with extensions. That seems a way to go for me, Corey. I really think that. Now, the one trade piece you have that would net significant return on investment is Pat Surtain. That's the one piece you have that would get you a first rounder back and more. Probably get you 2 first round picks. He's still 23 years old, I believe. There was a comment yesterday that said, but we should trade Pat Surtain because by the time we're good again, he's going to be past it. No. I mean, in theory, you may never be good again. So let's just assume you're on the path of being good again based on draft picks, salary cap, et cetera, et cetera. That's 2-3 years that you're out from under all of that money. He's 26, dude. This is his prime. If you think Pat Surtain is the building block and you can build without him, without trying to get a couple extra first round picks, then you lock him up. You sign him long term. Does he want to? It's kind of not up to him. You've got control of him for 6 years. With if you use a franchise tag, he's been through 3 years now. Next year, 5th round option franchise tag for 3 more years, and you're out of cap hell, and you can sign him to whatever you want to. So I don't know that trading other than Surtain, other than draft picks to move down, and other than guys that you might get a 6th or 7th for, is really the right option on that one. Let me see. The Epic Gamer comes in. He says with a super chat, he says, do you think the Broncos try and trade up to get a higher draft pick? Maybe. We just talked about how hard it would be. It depends on the only reason you're trading up, Epic Gamer, in the first especially is if you target that quarterback and you think you can get him. I just went through saying why that's going to be so hard. If Penix ends up being a guy worthy of drafting in the top 10, there's just going to be too much competition for him. There's too many teams out there that want a quarterback. I already mentioned the top 3. Let's go through the top 10. Chicago, let's say, yes, okay, Justin Fields is available. Okay, there's going to be competition for him. Washington, absolutely. New England, absolutely. Arizona, I'm leaning no on this one. Chargers, no. The Giants could be in it for sure because they're not sold on Daniel Jones, and he signed a big deal, but it's only 1 year left on it. It was like basically a 2-year deal. 1 year's already through. Tennessee, how sold are they on Will Levis? Enough that they would pass up on a guy at 7? Maybe. Atlanta is absolutely all in on a quarterback at number 8. Chicago, we already said that they were keeping, wouldn't that be interesting if they traded out of that spot and then took a quarterback at number 9 and snuck in and said, we'll just take Michael Penix and we're going to trade out of that spot and get 3 more picks for that number 1. And we like number 9. We're gonna get another first rounder for Justin Fields, and we're gonna take Penix at 9. Probably not gonna happen. The Jets, no, I don't think so. They're going to go the best player they possibly can get to try and take a run at it with Aaron Rodgers. They're not going to invest all that with Aaron Rodgers and then decide, oh, we need to draft Jordan Love and hedge on the future. No, they will be going for it. Minnesota could be in it as well at number 11. Depending on what they do with Kirk Cousins, I think that is the most likely place for him to go back. He's going to be expensive, but they've got some money and he knows the system fits well. I think they roll one more time with Kirk Cousins and beat them. But to get up into those spots, there's at least 5 spots there to try and go get quarterback. I just think it's going to be really, really difficult to move up and try and get one of the top. It's going to be almost impossible to get one of the top 3. Almost impossible. And it's going to be ridiculously hard to get the 4th one if Michael Penix ends up, with a top 10 grade. Nathan Johnson coming in. Good to see you, Nathan. Says, do you think we draft a quarterback first or draft best available? I would rather draft best available. We have too many holes not to. Nathan, I like the phrase best available prospect. The phrase best available player just rankles me because it's really impossible to get the best available player. Odds tell me that somebody down the draft is going to be better than whoever you draft. If you're drafting at 12, there's another 250 guys that are still going to get drafted. One of those guys is going to be better. But I know what you mean here. You look at best available prospect. Do you go in that spot and say best available prospect? What you cannot do, Nathan, is reach. You cannot go into this saying we have to have a quarterback in the first. Well, I don't have a quarterback that I like in the first round. I can't reach for him. If you do that, if you say I have to have a quarterback, trade down, get back if you don't like the guy. What kills you more than anything isn't guys that you miss on. It's like, okay, I mean, look at, and I'll use this as an example. Look at the Carolina Panthers, okay? The Carolina Panthers traded DJ Moore, who is a really good player for the Chicago Bears. They traded a number 1 pick who ended up being Jalen Carter. The Bears moved around out of that. They ended up moving and get for Jalen Carter. Ugh. Okay, so I got DJ Moore and Jalen Carter and the number 1 overall pick in this draft. Okay, so I traded Caleb Williams, Jalen Carter, and DJ Moore to get Bryce Young. Ouch. All right, the problem there isn't the guys that you gave up. The problem right now is Bryce Young is struggling mightily. If you had the season that the Houston Texans got from CJ Stroud, and if you had CJ Stroud, who should be the offensive rookie of the year, who helped DeMeco Ryans in be a finalist for NFL Coach of the Year, it's okay that you gave up those spots. I gave up 3 first-round draft picks for Trey Lance. Hadn't played a lick. Okay, what did those other guys turn into? Doesn't matter. I got Brock Purdy instead. I was able to plug in Brock Purdy and move that. So it's not the guys that you miss on. It's the guys you take that can't play that will end up killing you. The 49ers took a guy, but they got lucky with Mr. Irrelevant. Try and build a team off Mr. Irrelevance and let me know how it goes. So Nathan, the key on this one is do not reach. That's the way. You cannot go into this saying we have to have them. So if you like the quarterback, let me pause this real quick. I need to get to my Facebook fam on here. I've missed y'all, like Michael Renquillo coming in too. Don't reach. That's what will kill you faster than anything is if you reach in a spot and you don't like the guy. Now, you may love Michael Penix. The question is if you love him, do other teams too? Because there's going to be a lot of competition for quarterbacks this year. You saw how many quarterbacks played. You saw how many bad quarterbacks were out there this year across the NFL. There's going to be a lot of teams that are quarterback needy, and it's going to be expensive to try and move up if one doesn't fall to you. Thank you for the super chat, my friend. I want to say hello to some folks on Facebook. Sherry, she says, what a roller coaster of a season. I'm exhausted. Man, no kidding. I mean, 1-5. And you know some of the games in there were worse than that. It felt worse than that. To 6-1, my God, we're on top of the mountain. Beat the Chiefs, go into Buffalo and beat the Bills in a primetime game, to finishing kind of with a whimper down the stretch, including losing to the Patriots. Coming down. It just and then once you were knocked out of the playoffs, then the Russell Wilson drama. This has been, we have to say, it hasn't been boring. Some of the games may not have been exactly what you were looking for from an aesthetically pleasing type of performance, but the season itself, it's been a roller coaster. That's for sure. Michael Ranquillo coming in on Facebook. He says, good morning, Scott, on Broncos for breakfast. Go Broncos. It is good to see you. Thank you, my friend. Appreciate the support that you always show the show. Ernie Mays says, go Broncos country. Only hello, Scott. Now that we can talk draft. Yep, now we can talk draft. Now we can talk draft. I'm going to scroll down to the bottom to some of the newer comments. And he says, Jeremy says, mock it up. I'm not ready to do a mock draft yet. We might do that Thursday. Nick is so much farther ahead than me on these draft guys that I can't go more. I could do 12 where you're picking, but it'd be easier for me just to say some of the guys that might be available for you, because that's all you're really looking for anyway. Yes, I think Michael Penix will be available at 12 right now. I know Bo Nix will be available Will you have somebody like J.J. McCarthy in there as well? Maybe. Does Johnny Newton, defensive lineman, is he there? Probably. Dallas Turner at edge? Maybe. Latu, edge, UCLA? Maybe. Do you need Rome Adunzi from Washington? Watch him tonight. You could use another wide receiver. Kool-Aid McKinstry, a corner opposite Patrick Surtain? Yes. Offensive tackle? Maybe. That might be the way to go. So we'll see. Those are some guys that will be that could be available in your spot that could help. Again, every player I mentioned there is a good player, first round worthy, but they're also in premium positions. And frankly, you've got I want to say offensive tackles in need, but it's not necessarily as pressing in need because you've got your starters in there. Unless you do something with Garrett Bowles, you cannot do anything with Mike McGlinchey's contract. Do you get a guy in, and you're okay at guard with Powers and Quinn Miners? Do you draft a guy so that you can move on from Mike McGlinchey after his second year when his contract becomes more flexible, or do you just wait and do that in 2025? Good Lord, time's going fast. There's a Bama X be real interested in this one. He says no on Kool-Aid, please. Bama, what's and I'll share the comment. What's your concern with Kool-Aid McKinstry? The Alabama defensive backs historically have had pretty good luck. Now that doesn't mean he would be any good. That's not a reason to take an Alabama defensive back, just like it's not a reason to say, well, Ohio State quarterbacks never played very well, I'm not taking one. That's silly. But I'd be interested to see where, why no on Kool-Aid. A little stiff. I know he's got some decent size. Maybe a good number two opposite a number one. But be real interested on that one. James, he says, we'll see tonight if Penix's draft capital goes up. James, and capital, one, capital. Two, it's stock in this one. It's definitely not capital this time. His draft stock goes up. It's absolutely not capital this time. We'll see if his draft stock goes up tonight. And I think he's been on the rise. Jaden Daniels was the high riser during the season. Well earned. But does his go on something like this? Maybe. CJ Stroud skyrocketed in that game against Georgia, but CJ Stroud for a year was considered one or two. And then he kind of fell off a little bit. And then in that big stage, he showed everybody why he was one or two all along. Michael Penix has been a steady climber. How much farther can he go? Be fun tonight to get a watch on that one. And Bama X talking about Kool-Aid McKinstry. He's got some character concerns. It sounds like effort on this one. Picks and chooses when he tackles. That's not a good sign. I don't want a guy like that in the top 15 for sure. I don't want a guy in the top 15 that I've got worried about putting forth the effort. You need some dogs, for lack of a better word. I need some guys out there. Speaking of which, congratulations to Alex Singleton. I think it said he's set the Broncos record for tackles in a season. That had been around for years and years and years, 17 games. That helps, but still, you need some guys with some attitude like that. You'd like them to have a little bit more from a physical ability. And that's why I think we're hoping that Drew Sanders steps up next season. Let me see here. Let me hit some of these questions. Rodney Garcia coming in nice and early says, good morning, Scott. If the QB is not there, should Denver pursue an edge in the first round? Absolutely. Let me go. When I start thinking of team needs for the Denver Broncos, and I go by position of value too, because frankly, tight end is a huge need. Tight end might be the biggest need on this team. No, I still go front five on this. For me, other than quarterback, the front five is the biggest need on this team. I would go edge. One, frankly, defensive line, interior defensive line is the number one need on this team, especially if you move on from DJ Jones. Then you're sitting there with Zach Allen, and that's it. And frankly, Zach Allen might be a better 4-3 type defensive end than a 3-4 interior lineman defensive tackle. where he plays, than a 3-4 defensive end. He's got versatility, though, but you really might just have one jumbo guy on your line. That becomes a huge need. But just like I talked about before, Johnny Newton is the guy that's talked about going in the first round on this. Is he really a 12? If he's not, don't reach. It's what we said. If he's not, do not reach. Then go, and you're talking about possibly an edge there. That is a big need. An edge, guys that you could look at: Dallas Turner, Latu, Jared Verse, Chop Robinson, Braylon Trice, all guys considered to go in that 10 to 25 area that that you could be looking at on edge. Mentioned DL, cornerback. The corner opposite Pat Surtain is a big need. Fabian Rowe filled in and did well. You're hoping Damari Mathis might be able to step back up and provide. Riley Moss is somebody you're hoping will step in and be that guy. You're kind of counting on that. You traded up for him. But if you're not sold on him, right now, cornerback is a need for this team. Hopefully Riley Moss, Damari Mathis, and you solve that internally. That would be the best case scenario. Wide receiver is a big need for this team. You got Cortland Sutton. Do you trust Jerry Jeudy going into a season to be a guy that you can trust, to depend on? This is what I'm going to get. I know what I'm going to get week in and week out. I know the effort level. I know the production. I know the work I'm going to get at practice. Do you trust that? I don't. I don't. So Marvin Mims, you're hoping steps up and can replace Jerry Jeudy, and maybe you can move on from Jerry Jeudy and his $13 million guaranteed salary next year. So that's where I'm thinking about biggest needs. And frankly, tight end. If Brock Bowers somehow falls to 12, yes, please. I could see that one for sure. If Brock Bowers is sitting there at 12, is he a good fit for the Denver Broncos? Yes, he is. Nick's not here. Doing well. Him and the baby went home, but Nick will start talking about scheme fit, and he doesn't do that. I don't care. I don't care with Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers is a playmaker. Yes, please. That's absolutely where I would go. Austin Ryder, he likes that one. He says Bowers is 100% a Sean Payton guy. David talks Buffs. Bowers would be exciting. I do like that one. David Youngkin, this was earlier in the season, so it probably is still true. Does Singleton lead the team in tackles and missed tackles? At one point, he led the NFL in tackles and missed tackles. You know what that meant to me, David? And I've said this before, but it's worth repeating. It meant he was getting too many opportunities. It meant the guys in front of him weren't doing their jobs. It meant too many guys were getting through the defensive line, and your inside linebackers are having to do too much. So whether you say, okay, Alex Singleton wasn't good enough, I can look at those two stats and say, I need help on the defensive line. And I don't think that's a hot take. Y'all know. All right. Joel O has a good question. He says, are you afraid that if we draft Michael Penix, since he's left-handed, his blind side McGlinchey will get him killed? Not so much. Not any more so than if he was coming right at him. As far as blindside this or opposite side that, move the pocket a little bit. You can do some things to help McGlinchey in pass protection. Maybe I line a tight end up over there. Maybe I have get a little bit better with my my running back, who I have back there is doing a good job in blocking, but I can help him. So, Joel, I guess the answer would be not any more afraid that the quarterback would be getting killed than if he was right-handed. Am I afraid that the quarterback might get killed because of Mike McGlinchey? Yes. Yes. End of. So, not anymore that he's left-handed or right-handed. It doesn't worry me that much. And, Tom brings up Penix has injury issues, shoulders and both knees. Kind of scary, isn't it? What happened? We've talked about the injury. I won't say luck, but the injury. The Broncos were much healthier this year. They lost some guys, but it seems like the guys they lost were guys that were carrying pre-existing injuries. Dulcich was hurt last year. Dulcich was hurt this year. Tim Patrick, injury histories. Who else was some of the guys? Baron Browning stayed healthier than he had in his 3 years with the Denver Broncos, but had some injury concerns coming in. yes, it should scare you a little bit. As Denver Broncos, we're not over this. Let's go get injured players and hope they stay healthy. You're not over that, are you? I'm not over that. That scares the crap out of me. Um, so we will see. Now, the shoulders things almost scares me more than the ACLs because he is a thrower. Michael Penix only has about 270 yards in 6 years of rushing. He's a thrower. I mean, he can move around a little bit, but I'm not worried about him. Okay, if we take his legs away, that's not why I like him. I don't like him because of his mobility. I like him because that left arm for him is freaking. I love him. So that doesn't bother me too much. Keith Brugman has a good question. Thank you for the stars, my friend. He says, Scott, after the 2-game trial with Stidham, is there any possibility Russ now doesn't get cut? There's always a possibility, Keith. Is there any possibility that Russell Wilson is a starting quarterback for Sean Payton again? You're telling me there's a chance. I mean, there's the Dumb and Dumber chance. I just don't see it happening. I think it will be cantankerous. I think the relationship is fractured. I think Russ will want out, will want a fresh start. I think we'll have plenty of suitors. I think Russ is not going to do the Broncos any favors with no trade clauses or whatnot. And I think just like Derek Carr last year, when they shelved him, they will, and Matt Ryan, when they shelved him, and this is worse, this is from a relationship point of view, this seems more fractured. You will say, cut me. Otherwise, I think that's what it's going to have to be. I just don't, I don't see that. I don't see Russell Wilson suiting up and for Sean Payton as a starting quarterback ever again. Jeremy Sean says, what at Oregon makes you nervous about Nix? Nix played well at Oregon. He didn't play well before Oregon is one way to put it. And then I see him in the Oregon offense. It was one of his first games, and he comes back down and plays Georgia, and he was terrible again. So I try and wipe that free from my brain. Okay, this is a different guy. He's older. He's got time to get experience and mature. So I go in and I turn on an Oregon game, and I don't see any NFL throws. I don't see. It's all side to side to side to side to side, underneath, side to side. Very rarely do you see him make a throw that says, yes, he can play quarterback in the NFL. I see, again, that doesn't mean he can't. One of the things I'm really, really looking forward to is I'm going down to the Senior Bowl again, and he's supposed to be there. He has reserved a spot. I think he could easily move his way into the first round. If he's borderline right now, if he goes down there in a controlled environment where they ask him to make throws and he shows off that he's got that arm, he's got size and mobility, he's smart, he's really accurate underneath. I worry a little bit about his mental toughness, but that's not going to matter to draft guys. If they see that he's got the tools and he's got the stats to back it up, he'll be just fine. But what I don't like that I've seen in Oregon was just I didn't see an NFL quarterback because they don't let him do NFL things. That's my concern with Bo Nix, and I cannot wait to see him play at the Senior Bowl. I'm really, really looking forward to it. On that note, y'all, someone asked, might have been Tom. Let me see. Because this is a question that you need to be asking when people start talking about trading up. One, I think it's going to be virtually impossible to get into the top 3. Just about impossible. 2 of those spots are taken, and you're wondering about the Bears. The Bears are going to have – you're not going to be able to compete with the offers that the Bears will do unless you throw in Pat Surtain and a pair of first-round draft picks. Then they might listen. I'm not sure you want to do that. But if the Bears decide to stay put and take a quarterback, Justin Fields is in place. Justin Fields is in the same draft class as Pat Surtain. So he's got one more year on his rookie deal, then his 5th-year option. Right now, his 5th-year option would be about $20 million. So you'd have 2 years to make a decision. Denver Broncos, if you have 2 years to make a decision, don't sign him to a big contract extension right away when you've got 2 years of control. Let it see how it plays out first. Don't sign him to $250 million with 200 guaranteed. Not a good idea. So, no, Justin Williams, if he is available, somebody that you should absolutely be talking about. There will be competition for Justin Fields as well. There will absolutely be competition for him as well. But yes, if the Bears stay put, Justin Fields is on the table and is someone that we will talk about a lot. On that note, I am going to hop out of here. I will be back on Thursday. I'm going to take tomorrow off to cover some different things and let the news cycle build a little bit until we come back on Thursday. And then Nick will be back next week. So I appreciate everybody joining me this morning. I appreciate the supers coming in from Mark, from Quentin, from Addison, from the Epic Gamer, from Nathan Johnson. And for those of you, Michael and Keith, that I saw over, and if I missed you, I apologize, over on Facebook as well. But I will be back on Thursday. So programming note, tomorrow's off. And let me see if I can run through some of these banners here. Just, we are Broncos for Breakfast on the Mile High Huddle podcast. A good place to follow on Twitter or Twix is the MHH pod, or you can follow me at Scout Kennedy. Twitter at Mile High Huddle. If you want to get your merch, get a Broncos for Breakfast mug, head over to mhhmerch.com. And, always give a look over at Instagram at mile_high_huddle. And as a great reminder, I love reading through these things. Go over to Apple Pods and give Mile High Huddle podcast, which is all of the podcasts, but you can mention Scott, you can mention Nick, a 5-star review. And as always, if you get a chance to, we've got a lot of new viewers in here. Thank you for hanging out with me this morning. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share as it scrolls across there on the bottom. I'm going to get out of here. Thank you so much for hanging out with me this morning. I will see you on Thursday, and I hope you have a heck of a Black Monday. Take it easy, everybody.